embedded in the compositional structure, but there are spaces for interactions that actually happen just in the performance, in a particular performance. So I would say he is actually a soloist, as a clarinetist, comes from that background. So the clarinet is the strong element, but then the joystick actually creeps in and actually struggles to get the sound bits of the clarinet and disrupt it and take the attention away and create its own identity. Because joystick is not a music instrument, and we construct instruments when we put a focus, musical focus, and give them musical identity.
So in other words, the joystick controller is capturing live the sound of the clarinet and manipulating it based on the direction that the joystick is pulled or pushed in?
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct, but also the joystick itself has some synthesized sound that it controls within the computer that have their own sonic identity without the clarinet.
I see.
So the joystick has its own sonic identity, and then also the interaction is done by controlling the parameters of the live clarinet.
Let me ask you, most of the works on your program have already been performed. Are there any works that will be receiving a world premiere?
Yes, we have 2 world premieres, and this is Spencer Topple's violin for violin and electronics. It's a 3-movement piece, and then there is linger, flutter figure. This is a collaboration that I spoke earlier about by Margaret Schedel and Sarah O'Halloran. So these are 2 new pieces.
And what are the challenges? What are the hurdles in those works?
Spencer is really an incredible musician and brilliant mind, mathematical mind. And actually he has it all, I would say. He really is an epitome of contemporary musician. So what he takes in a violin, that's the title of the piece, is a challenge of combining his interest in research in music information retrieval. This is the work that he has been involved in at Dartmouth with Michael Casey, and then somehow creating a relationship between this extremely high-end contemporary and commercially oriented research with his classically trained background as a violinist, composer, and conductor. So it's a pretty intense discussion and proposition that happens in the piece. And he uses 2 types of techniques. One is the sound source separation, which is used in music retrieval applications, let's say iTunes, or any online applications when you want to, for example, find a song that you like, and you want to find Pandora radio. You want to find songs that are similar. So the program, the algorithm, looks for elements of the song, rhythmic elements or pitch elements that other songs share. So that's one of the techniques that he uses. And then there is a source spotter, and that is a technique that enables extracting particular elements, for example, timbre from a recording. So there will be a sample of a violin with a particular, let's say, sul ponticello, or sound, or a particular pitch. And when he plays on a real violin, that tone, the algorithm in the computer listens to the tone and searches in the sample for that particular sound, either sul ponticello or particular pitch, and matches it and brings it forward. So he's creating this type of a dialogue, retrieving data from the pre-recorded sounds and combining them in real time, retrieving them in real time from samples and combining them with a performance on the physical violin. It's pretty complex. I do not know whether there is a simple way to put it, but the result, in any way, the result is this extremely subtle timbral combination of. See, when we, for example, hear a violin, we hear it as a complex tone, and we may, the human ear is quite incredible, can focus on particular element of the sound production. And maybe this is actually, this is maybe even clearer, that the techniques that he uses can zoom in on a particular element of the sound and bring that element forward.
Fascinating, fascinating. Clarify for me one bit. If he's playing a pre-written score, I assume.
There is a score, yeah.
And when he reaches a certain point, a certain sound, a certain gesture, a certain timbre, a database is unearthed or reaches into, and
yes.
but if the score is pre-written, won't every performance of that piece achieve the same results? Why then have this entire process rather than just having a tape part, accompanying tape part that has exactly what he wants?
I think there is, this is a very new piece, and so I heard the first movement of it. The excitement of all of these pieces is that they happen right there in real time in front of the audience. There is something about that it is very true that in very many cases in electroacoustic music, the technology can be successful by being fixed. But there is something really exciting and dangerous and provocative to try to manage these wild horses of bits and computer synthesis, for example. So my suspicion is, and this is that the database actually is the database of the sounds from which he picks or circulates or searches through changes from performance to performance.
I see.
There is definitely an aspect of a change.
I see. The danger of change.
Yeah, probability.
So tell us a little bit now about this collaboration between O'Halloran and Schedel.
Yes, Max Schedel.
This is with a cabo.
Yes, yeah.
Tell us what that is.
So again, while Spencer takes the technology and so he takes again an instrument that is quite established and combines it with this really novel technique that is for the reason of enhancing and hybridizing the acoustic sound of the violin, creating these new textures that are pretty much actually quite unheard, because the technique is actually still under development. It's as I said, it's a commercial technique, but it's in the experimental stage, so to speak. So he is very much involved in the creation, in the design of the technology. The collaboration between Schedel and O'Halloran takes a different approach. They take musical technologies, and as you mentioned, there's a cable, which is Keith Macmillan sensor embedded bowl, cello bowl, and Zeta violin, Zeta cello, and there's a narration and video. So these are elements that are pretty much designed by other people or have been explored, narration, video techniques, etc. So their contribution is what can we do with all these bits that are presented to us, these technologies, and create new context. What binds them together is actually Pauline Oliveira's deep listening and the workshops. This is where they met in 2005. And the idea of meditation and gaining awareness about the sounds and the world, the sonic world around us. So for them, the idea of memory and imagination is expanding the imagination is pretty important. It's going to be pretty interesting. This is again a premiere of the piece, so I have not had an opportunity to see the whole work. But from the previous projects that they have done, this was the reason why I approached them, because I think that's a pretty exciting. I saw Sarah's individual pieces.
Tell me, how is it that they collaborate? How do they write a piece together?
They do, and this is again something perhaps that could have not been done work via internet.
Well, it was certainly done in the Soviet era by committees of composers.
Oh, yes.
But the idea of writing in pairs or in groups, how do they do that?
Right. From what I understand, it's they start. They have they have a general platform, and the general platform of the expression is the meditation. And so there is much communication over emails and Skype, and the physical meeting actually happens towards the end. It actually happened 2 weeks ago when Mac came to Charlottesville, Virginia, and they worked together on the piece. And this is a very good question, you know, because one asks about the authorship. What is who does what? And the way how they describe their collaboration is that it is very spontaneous, and it's a result of interactions that are improvisatory, and they take shape through the process of polishing and finding sharpening the structures. So it's very much of it's not, I would say, lyricist slash music writer for songs, for example. They're very much coherent relationship. The boundaries are defined by the fact that Sarah is the narrator and operates the video, and Max Schedel plays the Zeta cello and operates the cable controller. So I think this is what they bring to the table, and find musical solutions through interacting together.
So tell us, what is a cable controller and Zeta cello?
Cable controller is looks like a regular cello bowl, basically. It is embedded with sensors that can detect, for example, the tilt of the bow, the position of the bow, the pressure of the bow. There are 8 different sensor technologies. I'm sure there are other that I do not even.
Did you talk about the speed of the bow?
The speed of the bow, yeah. The position, speed, pressure, tilt, and I guess actually with the tilt you have a X, Y, Z. There's a number of components. So what this does is gives you an incredible control, because this data is sent via Bluetooth technology to the computer as a stream of numbers, and you can decide what do you do with this, how you map the stream of numbers to musical parameters. Is the position of the bow on the string going to control the dynamics or the pitch of, let's say, the voice, the narration, or some sort of a synthesized sound, And so that's the bow actually can. This is the fascinating part about the technology. Can be used without the cello, because truly, when you connect the bow via Bluetooth, it will detect the movement, whether you are striking the string or not. You can actually use your finger if you want to detect the pressure. If there is no string. But then Meg uses the Zeta cello, so there is actually a sound of the cello, albeit electronic, involved in the composition.
So the cello itself is also an electronic instrument.
Yes.
How does that work? It's not just a regular cello that has a pickup on it. It's a cello that has sensors on it.
No, it has a pickup. Yeah, that's it. That's the cello itself doesn't have any embedded technologies. This is maybe I could imagine maybe 10-15-year-old technology that was developed mostly for the musician who travel, and it's a very compact instrument. And again, you can actually send the data, so you get the acoustic sounds of the strings, but you also can get the MIDI data out of the instruments. We can use that to control other parameters.
Another element.
Exactly. Let's say in the video, controlling the color saturation or movement of the.
I see. Great. So let's talk a little bit about Chikashi Miyama's very intriguing piece, Black Vox, which he performs without actually even touching the instrument. What's that about?
Yeah, Chikashi Miyama is an incredible up-and-coming composer from Japan, and he is just finishing his degree at the Buffalo with chord lipping.
How did you find him? How did you decide to program?
I have seen him. There is a small group of people who go to conferences and festivals and resonate to each other. And I have seen his performances. I have seen him performing on the Peacock. I also saw his video piece. It's called Piano Chimera, really beautiful, stunning piece of art and music. And so I approached him. In fact, I brought him down to Miami to perform a set of music with his controller. What is actually intriguing about including him in the program is that while all other pieces on the program somehow create a tactile combination or tactile interaction between the performer and the instrument, he goes completely against it. His instrument looks like a box, and it's embedded with 35 infrared sensors. So all the audience sees is a box that has there's no interface coming out. And the way how it works is if you you start placing objects, in his case it's hands, over the sensors, you occlude the sensors and they detect. It's very much quite similar as you walk to a bathroom and there's a photocell, detects that there's an object, there's a movement, so to speak, in the space, and the light goes on or off. So he takes this approach, this radical approach, while there's much of interest in haptic interfaces, tactile interfaces, and we see it from iPhones to iPads to ATM machines. He takes the opposite approach. Can I make music without having a physical instrument that I mold, that I touch, that I pluck, that I bow? And very successfully so. And you already mentioned in your email, well, how is it different from a theremin? So the difference, the main difference is, while theremin enables you to control two parameters, that would be the amplitude with the horizontal antenna and the pitch or the frequency. He has 35 sensors. So those are 35 controllers that can contribute to whatever the mapping would be. It's 35 streams of numbers, the data signals that can be applied to control very minute changes of sound. Now, all these sounds are actually generated in the computer. So the instrument itself has no sound. That's another important thing, that while all other pieces present also the acoustic sound of the instrument, whether it's the zeta cello or the violin or the clarinet, this instrument actually produces no acoustic sound by itself. So all it is an interface, and its resonating body, its brain is actually in the computer, and so that is very exciting. What he does is he creates an incredibly intricate choreographies of hand movement. He's very much in control and aware where particular sensors are located and what type of sounds they will produce, because this is the mapping process that he created. And so it is quite striking. It is really virtuoso. One has to be a virtuoso to control this instrument. Very much, if you basically multiply this, very much like theremin. It is easy to glide,
but very difficult to achieve precise notes.
Precision,
yeah.
Exactly.
So I take it that the Peacock, this instrument, was created not specifically for Chikashi, but for...
He created it.
He created this instrument.
He actually made
and
it.
Are there other people playing the Peacock now too? Are you?
I do not think so. Even though it looks extremely polished, the interface is extremely polished. I think he is the sole performer, so to speak.
Wow.
I would not be surprised, that it goes to, it makes a commercial appearance sometime, somewhere soon, I